Okay, Christina Wong, next. Missy, I got you too.
Hi, JD. Thank you so much for doing this. Back on the deconfliction with the Russians, would you say that the U.S. also reconfirmed the tenets of the MOU?
I'm not sure I caught all that. Can you repeat the question, Christina? I'm sorry.
Yes, on the deconfliction with the Russians in Syria, would you say that the U.S. also reconfirmed the tenets of the MOU?
Well, what I would say is we've continued our deconfliction efforts throughout the past weeks, and we believe that continued deconfliction of our operations keeps both sides safer on the battlefield. It's a very complex environment, and we have continued our efforts to try and make things as safe as they can be, given the very complex and difficult set of circumstances that we have over Syria. It's probably not my place to commit us to anything. That's probably the role of someone in Washington, but I can tell you all of that.
And then secondly, do the Turkish airstrikes in Iraq make it more risky for U.S. and coalition forces to operate with the Kurdish Peshmerga there, and how will that risk be mitigated?
I'm sorry, you broke up another time there. Can you repeat the question again for me?
Sorry, it might just be me. Do the Turkish airstrikes in Syria make it more risky for U.S. or coalition forces to operate with the Kurdish Peshmerga, and how will that risk be mitigated going forward?
Well, we continue working with our partner forces in Syria and Iraq with regard to deconfliction and coordination. What we would say is if we follow the procedures that are in place and do appropriate coordination, then we believe that we can conduct operations safely and continue focusing on defeating ISIS, which is the biggest threat to the region and to the world.
Significantly hurt the Peshmerga's ability to fight ISIS. And earlier, did you say ops box as in operations box?
Yeah, we call it Ops Box North. So this is an area of operations north of Raqqa. That's a defense techno-babble, so I apologize for that. That is just our operations area in the north above Raqqa, where our partner forces are operating and clearing to isolate the city.
Just really quickly did the Turkish airstrikes in Iraq hurt the Peshmerga's ability to fight ISIS?
Well, 5 people were unfortunately killed. These were fighters that were doing their part to fight ISIS. So that does hurt the Peshmerga's ability when they start to lose fighters unnecessarily because of uncoordinated operations.
Okay, next to Richard Sisk from military.com.
Hi, Colonel. Can you tell us, did U.S. forces in Syria provide any medevacs, provide any medical assistance for those YPG who may have been injured by the Turkish airstrikes?
We didn't medevac anyone.
One more. Colonel, can you say, is there a concern at CJTF that these Turkish airstrikes might have an impact on the ability, the willingness of the YPG to continue in the drive on Raqqa when they're being attacked by a U.S. NATO ally?
Well, what we've seen since the attacks on the SDF were done is that they've cleared more than 200 square kilometers of territory in the north of Raqqa to further isolate that city. So they've also continued their advance into Topka, which is very difficult and dangerous territory with a lot of very tough ISIS fighters, including a lot of foreign fighters. So they have proven to be a very reliable partner in fighting ISIS. That is what we've observed to date. So I'm not going to speculate about what else might happen, but I am going to tell you what we've observed so far.
Next to Jim Michaels, USA Today.
Colonel Dorrian, I understand that this was a notification and not coordination on the part of the Turks regarding the airstrikes. But did the coalition have any chance to respond at all? In other words, what was their reaction? Did they ask that it be postponed or ceased? Just what was the coalition reaction immediately to that notification?
We did tell them that this was a notification and not coordination, and that it was not enough time to conduct the operation safely.
In a quick follow on Syria, could you sort of a quick follow on Syria, if you could sort of describe the level of coalition support currently for the Topka Dam offensive?
Certainly, we have coalition advisors with the partner force, with our partner forces, the SDF and the Syrian Arab Coalition. So we continue to provide them our advice and assistance as they advance into that very difficult terrain. We continue to take ISIS fighters, fighting positions, and weapons and resources off the battlefield through our air and artillery strikes all over Iraq and Syria, including in Topka. And then we provide intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities and observe the battlefield to make sure that we're achieving the effects that we intend.
Next to Kasim, did you have a follow-up?
Colonel Dorrian, please could you clarify some of the statements you made earlier? You said that the problem with the Turkish strikes were lack of notification and coordination, and then the casualties of the partnered forces. So does that implicitly mean that the coalition or the U.S. military recognizes the Turkish counterparts or Turkish partners' concerns with respect to the PKK bases in Iraq and in northern Syria?
I'm not sure I caught all that question.
So you said that. Oh, you say something. You said that. I believe he's still speaking.
Can you hear us there, JD?
Okay, I've got you. Sorry. Much better now. Thank you.
You said that the problem with the Turkish strikes was that it was not coordinated, it was not notified with a enough time. And then the partner forces were unfortunately being killed. So does that statement implicitly means that you recognize the Turkish legitimate concerns with respect to the PKK presence in Iraq and in Syria?
No, we acknowledge that there are PKK in some areas of Iraq and northern Syria. What we're saying is that these strikes didn't provide adequate time and coordination to assure that that's who's being struck. So the Syrian Democratic Forces were struck. This is a force that's been instrumental in defeating ISIS in many areas all around Syria. And then, of course, the unfortunate death of several Peshmerga fighters in Iraq. And Iraq's sovereignty was also not respected here. We believe that every force that's fighting terrorism in Iraq should be doing so in coordination and with the agreement and cooperation of the government of Iraq, and that's not what happened here.
Just one other follow-up. Turkish military is saying that they have tracked some of the arms provided by the coalition to the anti-ISIS partners being transferred to the PKK elements inside Turkey, and many of those arms from Syria found their way into Turkey from the two areas struck by the Turkish jets the other day. So I know it's understandable that you cannot account for every single arm you have provided, but do you have anything to refute that claims that some of the arms provided by the coalition found their way to the PKK elements, as there is a presence of PKK inside Syria and inside northern Iraq?
Well, to be clear, we provide weapons and equipment to the Syrian Arab Coalition, not the YPG. These are forces that have proven reliable. We haven't seen them threaten Turkey at all. We've seen them fight ISIS. We've seen them liberate more than 8,000 square kilometers of territory in isolating Raqqa. We've seen them liberate Manbij, which was a dangerous command and control node for international terrorism. We've seen very good progress made in the defeat of ISIS by our partnered force. So that's what we've observed. We have not observed the things that you're alleging at all.
Next to Tara Kopp, Stars and Stripes for follow-up.
Thanks for hanging in there with us. Back to the deconfliction line. So are you confirming that the line is open and operating? And when was the last time that coalition and their Russian counterparts spoke on the line?
Well, we are going to discuss the fact that there has been deconfliction going on all along, but probably going to end it there as far as the daily play-by-play on what was deconflicted and what was not, and who said what in these calls. We are not going to get back into that business. So we have been deconflicting all along, and we continue that. We'll pause again.
Index, I repeat, all Mars, index.
Okay, we're at index, folks, so we can answer questions now.
Just a quick follow-up. I'm not asking about the content of the calls. I'm just confirming that calls have taken place today, yesterday, between coalition and their Russian counterparts.
Yep. The calls happen on an as-needed basis, on a regular basis, and we're not going to talk about every little time that it happens.
Last follow-up here from Missy Ryan.
Yeah, just to clarify, did you say when you were answering Ryan that the Turks had not provided the location of the airstrikes that they were going to conduct when they provided the notification, not deconfliction? And also, did you say that you had not seen the Turkish Foreign Ministry statement rebutting the American criticism of the strikes?
What I'm saying is that the size of the area in which the operations are going to occur didn't leave enough time to assure that our forces could be out of the way or really understand exactly where those strikes were going to be. That's what I'm saying. As far as the other part, have I seen a statement? I think I need you to repeat that.
There was a Turkish foreign ministry, the Turkish government put out statements from the foreign ministry rebutting the American criticism of the notification process.
I haven't seen those statements.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for. JD, thank you very much for your time. Did you have anything else for us before you signed off?
Nope. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.